I disagree. You can't fuck with Tank. Gardner Reedham against Josecito Lopez. What a big win that was for Canelo.
Eddie Hearn and Leonard Ellerbe have always been at war. But yesterday at the grand arrival of the Canelo-Alvarez versus Edgar-Berlanga fight, the pair seemed to be forming the best of friendships until a discussion about Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis was brought up.
I don't care what he says. If there's a fight to be made, if there's money to be made, if there's an opportunity for a fighter, I'm all in. I don't care who it is.
What was initially an atmosphere of friendship quickly dissolved into disagreement and chaos once the interviewer questioned the pair of boxing promoters on the possibility of a Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson fight. Once the topic of Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson, the newest signee of Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing Promotions, was introduced, each promoter took the side of his fighter and got into a hot debate with the other.
Dice! It's a big gamble, but they don't even think it's a gamble. One of these days, Canelo's going to get old.
It got so heated that Ellerbe cut Eddie Hearn in between his interview to prove his point, while Hearn, on the other hand, warned him against making the statement he was making. They disagreed so badly that Hearn was clearly having a heated exchange with him and disrespecting him before an awkward silence was restored between them. Leonard Ellerbe argued back and forth about a potential mega fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson. I feel like we've got a two-fight plan with Shakur. Hopefully he extends. Joe Cordina, Zepeda in February. I think that Tank against Shakur is one of the biggest fights in the sport.
The last third of the fight. So what that leads me to believe is from the moment
put one in my back. I was like,
that these two are going to come out very aggressive, looking to demonstrate their
Jack against Jack.
Hearn told Ellerbe that World Boxing Association regular lightweight champion Tank Davis needs World Boxing Council champ Shakur Stevenson to give him a real fight, and that the two of them would make for a huge mega clash. Understandably, Hearn is in a mad rush for Shakur to get the fight against Tank Davis. The British promoter Hearn signed Shakur to a two-fight deal with his Matchroom company, which some view as an escape route. The way Shakur looked in his last two fights, he'll lose sooner or later against one of the contenders, and he'll be useless to Hearn once that happens. Ellerbe argued that Shakur can't beat Tank, and the fight between them will eventually happen.
It's a process. It's a process. It's a process. For anybody.
Obviously, you've got your guy, Tank. He's got his guy now, Shakur. If that fight was to happen, how do you think it goes?
The gist of what Ellerbe was saying to Hearn is that the Tank versus Shakur fight is not ready to happen. Ellerbe is not saying when, but it seems it needs more time. Eddie Hearn hypes up Cordina as dangerous fight for Shakur Stevenson. Shakur's stock is too low right now for Tank to fight him. Stevenson is coming off consecutive lackluster fights against Artem Hartounian and Edwin de los Santos. Shakur needs a couple of solid wins over Joe Cordina and William Zepeda before a match between him and Tank would be a viable option.
At one point,
It's probably because of you.
it's before my time.
What fuckers do is you put up a little headline and no one watches the interview, they just read the headline.
Tank will be back before the end of the year. We're looking at a couple of guys right now, said promoter Leonard Ellerbe to the media about Gervonta Tank Davis, planning on fighting before the end of 2024. As it relates to the Shakur Stevenson fight, Tank wants him, but it's all about the timing of everything. I know we've got a two-fight plan with Shakur. Hopefully he extends. Joe Cordina on October 12th and Zepeda in February, said Eddie Hearn about his plans for Shakur Stevenson. I think Tank against Shakur is one of the biggest fights in the sport. I think Tank is so exceptional that it's going to take someone as good as Shakur to give him a real fight. And I love that fight, said Hearn.
Massive beef, Hearn slams Ellerbe. Do you know what I mean? And then
Is this the first time you two have actually met?
He won't beat Tank. Shakur can't beat Tank, said Ellerbe. I disagree. Tank loses rounds, said Hearn. Tank decides to do what he wants to do in certain fights, said Ellerbe. Me and you can have a bet on that fight, said Hearn. Most definitely, said Ellerbe. I think Shakur is the man to beat him, said Hearn, reiterating his belief that he thinks Stevenson can beat Tank Davis.
No, we actually sat down and had coffee. It was some years ago.
Shakur cannot beat Tank. He's a very good fighter. I have a lot of respect for him with what he's done in the ring, and he has a good team around him. He can't beat Tank, said Ellerbe. I disagree with you on that, said Hearn. I don't want to get into details. He's won every fight he's had in the ring, but the business is always different, said Ellerbe. We all know what Tank brings to the table. Very time he comes out, you get this massive amount of media and fans that Canelo Alvarez is drawing for his fight this Saturday night against Edgar Berlanga.
Yeah. That was some years ago.
Talk to me about that coffee date, though, because obviously it didn't go too well, because then you started all the beef.
No, we actually talking about.
So, he's going to keep doing what he's doing, and inevitably, those two, Tank and Shakur, will meet in the ring. It will happen. It will definitely happen, said Ellerbe. I agree with you. I'll say this about Shakur. His fire has been dampened for a long time by people at Top Rank that knew he was going to leave at the end of his contract. He did a big gate in Newark for the Artem Harutyunyan fight on July 6th in New Jersey, said Hearn about Shakur. He was the highest rated fighter on ESPN this year. Shakur does big numbers, but I didn't want to tell everyone that he does big numbers. If we keep building him and he comes up against a commercial giant like Tank, Shakur against Tank is one of the great American fights and one of the biggest fights in boxing, said Hearn.
Doing what him and Frank just did. Yeah. We actually talked about that.
He's a good fighter. What else do you want me to say? He just can't beat Tank, said Ellerbe about Stevenson. I think your guy Tank needs challenges. He's that good, said Hearn to Ellerbe. Shakur Cordina on PPV. He challenges himself, said Ellerbe, brushing off Hearn. There's no one out there that will give him a real fight, said Hearn.
Talking to him, you guys go back and forth a lot.
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't register with me. It's just another promoter in the game.
Hearn and Ellerbe have been embroiled in a long-standing war of words, with the Mayweather Promotions CEO critical of the Brit ever since he entered the US market in 2018 with his Matchroom USA venture. However, they had their first chance at a possible settlement when Hearn announced Crawford versus Madrimov, an event that will be presented by His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority of Saudi Arabia, and will mark the first Riyadh season event outside of the kingdom. The card features several premier boxing champions fighters, whom Ellerbe works closely with, including Andy Ruiz Jr., who faces Jarrell Miller, and Isaac Cruz, who meets Jose Valenzuela. Despite years of back and forth, Ellerbe has commended the Matchroom chairman for his involvement in putting on this card.
Pleasant from my side and from his side, do you know what I mean? Obviously, there hasn't been any beef for a while.
You gotta give Hearn credit too, Ellerbe told FightHype.com. Again, I'm not a hater. That's one thing I'm not. A lot of people take things the wrong way because, I'm critical of certain things. I call things as I see it. I give credit where credit is due. Good job with putting all of this together. You've got to give Luis de Cubas credit too, and the other promoters who were involved with helping put it together. It's an enormous card, and you would actually have to be a hater to not like it.
I watched it, I was quite surprised. I mean, this is a 58-year-old man, I think he is, or something like that, saying that he's in the gym hitting the bag. I mean,
It's great for boxing, and I'm excited for it. Earlier this month, Hearn announced the signing of IBF welterweight world champion Jaron Boots Ennis to his Matchroom stable, reportedly on a 3-fight deal. Ennis, regarded as one of the most gifted American fighters, had several butts under the PBC banner, but was never signed to the entity and is set to make the first defense of his title against mandatory challenger Cody Crowley in July. Ellerbe has praised the move, but believes Hearn has a lot of work to do to build the Philadelphia man into a star.
So, just going to make sure that if I do see him about, I'll just stay 11 feet away. Because
what is going to happen if you actually see him? Because, all right, he's not going to start swinging for you. We know that.
Yeah, that was good. I like that, he said. Again, I'm not a hater. Boots is a terrific fighter, but Hearn knows that based upon his experience here in the United States, that it's not easy just taking a guy, no matter how talented he is, and turning him into an attraction/star. He's got his work cut out for him, but again, it's better to have that kind of quality of fighter. I call him a generational talent, in my opinion. So how can you F that up? But again, it's not easy, and you really, really have to understand what you're doing. Things are different in the United States than they are internationally.
But, well, I don't know, yeah.
I'm telling you, y'all can get him. Y'all can get that man. Some going. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not gonna play that game.
The pair really began their feud after Gervonta Davis began rumors about leaving Mayweather Promotions. Hearn has never been shy about making enemies in the boxing business, and it looks like he has a new one in Leonard Ellerbe. Ellerbe served as Floyd Mayweather's longtime financial manager, and it's safe to say he did not approve of the way Hearn spoke about his fighter. With Davis claiming that he would end his partnership with Mayweather Promotions, Hearn jumped on the opportunity. Despite this, Ellerbe discussed the issue on The Last Stand with Brian Cluster for Showtime, where he said,
I'm not gonna allow him to disrespect me.
People send me that kind of stuff, like, oh, have you seen this from Ellerbe? I can't even tell you.
He's Hearn's a clown, and everybody knows that. That's why you just laugh. I try to be as professional as I can possibly be, but he's the one guy that I can possibly say that if I had the opportunity, I'd stomp him out. Eddie Hearn has since responded to Ellerbe's comments when being interviewed by IFL TV, where he comedically spun the words of the famous song Ain't No Sunshine and sang, "Ain't no sunshine when Tank's gone, feel the pain when he goes away, ain't no sunshine when Tank's gone, oh Leonard Ellerbe, why are you so obsessed with me?"
Pulse doesn't move one spot when I see that, because let's be honest, right?
After Eddie Hearn responded to Leonard Ellerbe's comments when being interviewed by IFL TV, where he comedically spun the words of the famous song Ain't No Sunshine and sang, Mayweather Promotions boss Leonard Ellerbe told fellow promoter Eddie Hearn to stop playing games after offering to fight him. Hearn had teased the idea of stepping in the ring against Ellerbe after the pair have gone back and forth in the media over the past year. The Matchroom boxing boss constantly mocks Ellerbe over his repeated threats towards him, with the American threatening to stomp Hearn out of the US boxing market.
Leonard Ellerbe has absolutely no relevance to my business or my life.
Ellerbe claimed Hearn doesn't know what he is doing and wants to be bigger than his fighters, but the British promoter has no idea where his rival's disdain for him has come from. Ellerbe is seemingly at breaking point with Hearn and fired back at his fight offer on Twitter. "Look, idiot, stop playing with me. I'm not gonna play these kid games with you. It's fun and games to you until stuff gets real," Ellerbe wrote to Hearn. The British promoter, who admitted he has been training for a big opportunity, recently opened up as a massive favorite in a potential fight against Ellerbe.
There's so many levels between us that I don't even know if you can call it levels.
Everyone sent me those odds, 1/3. I wonder what Leonard Ellerbe weighs at the moment, because I'm nearly 16 stone now. I've lost like 2.5 stone. I'm training for this opportunity, not for that opportunity with Leonard, but for this big opportunity that will probably present itself soon, Hearn told IFL TV. Another big issue they had was because of Leonard Ellerbe's disapproval of DAZN is a well-known story. The CEO of Mayweather Promotions, a couple of years ago, even claimed that nobody watches fights on the new age PPV platform. To date, it seems like he holds on to this unpopular opinion. However, promoter Eddie Hearn, whose bastion is DAZN, has defended the platform.
Stratosphere might be a better way to describe it.
Like, he played that little game. I guarantee you.
Ever since DAZN was launched in 2018, the platform has proved to be a disruptor in the PPV business. On its watch, massive historic platforms like Showtime Boxing have seen its knell. One constant partner of DAZN, Hearn, has remained true to the platform. He gives all his fight streaming rights under his promotions to the Europe-based entity. So of course, when someone downplays the new era DAZN has ushered in, the promoter naturally voices out his disdain. Last December, Matchroom Boxing promoted Regis Prograis versus Devin Haney. While the fight was not as lethal as many expected, giving Haney easy progress toward victory, there was a common understanding that the fight flopped on PPV. Multiple promoters, including Bob Arum and Leonard Ellerbe, openly discussed how it hardly reached the 50K sales mark. However, Hearn asserted to Fight Hype that the numbers were underplayed. He compares the actual numbers with that of the recent fight between Sebastian Fundora and Tim Tszyu. The latter was the first fight Al Heyman's PBC hosted in association with Amazon Prime Video, its newest PPV partner. The promoter observed,
And they want to put a stop to that, so it's always going to be competitive, and it was good to catch up.
Yeah, no, I thought it might, might get a little spicy, but it didn't.
a lot of people reported that Haney versus Prograis did 60,000, which is incorrect. Leonard Ellerbe said they did a show that lost millions of dollars. What I can tell you is that Haney versus Prograis did between 4 and 5 times more than Tszyu against Fundora. So in that respect, it was quite successful. Matchroom Boxing promoter Eddie Hearn spent some time chatting with Fight Hype about his thoughts on the red-hot lightweight division and his increasingly hostile beef with Mayweather Promotions' Leonard Ellerbe. Hearn said despite legal warnings from Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions, he was prepared to make Gervonta Davis a huge offer if it's true he's no longer under contract. On who Hearn views at the top dog at 135, you have to say Devin now. Can the others beat him? That's another question. I mean, I rank Tank Davis very highly. He's a big puncher, he's extremely skillful as well, but Devin has to be the top dog. He's the undisputed champion right now. Ryan Garcia is probably the biggest draw out of all those guys, hasn't yet been tested. I mean, had a good win against Luke Campbell, dropped in that fight. Can he beat Devin Haney? Can he beat Tank Davis?
I'm just going to make sure I stay 11 feet away from him, because apparently if I get inside 10 feet, he's going to smack me. So, we'll see.
He does like a few shows a year.
I think the biggest fight in the division is Ryan Garcia against Tank Davis, to be honest with you. That's just a big mix of audiences, big mix of fan bases. It's just a huge fight, but there's some great fights in the division. Let's not forget about Vasily Lomachenko. He may beat them all, because when he boxed Teofimo Lopez, he did have an injury, and he wasn't 100%, but you can't take anything away from Teofimo. But Lomachenko, Haney, Garcia, Tank Davis, great division. Let's see him fight each other, and Kambosos, let's not completely rule him yet. When asked on publicly acknowledging his interest in signing Gervonta Davis and what he thinks Davis may do, B responded,
Like, I mean, I don't know. I'll stop there. But I mean, I'm a massive global icon, you know? And he's just like a local promoter in Vegas, you know?
I don't really know. I mean, we had a legal letter from Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions telling us to ultimately stop talking or mentioning Gervonta Davis or approaching him or whatever they thought we were doing. The reality is, we have no idea. I presume that means he's still under contract to Mayweather Promotions. I also saw Tank say that was his last fight with them under his contract. So when does that contract expire? What we won't do is approach any fighter that is under contract. So if an opportunity comes to talk to him and he's not under promotional contract, we will make him a huge offer. But let's see. They've done a good job with him, and I don't knock that. He's a big draw, but he's also a great fighter, an exciting fighter, so it's easier to do that kind of job. But I feel like Mayweather Promotions has done a good job. The problem is, he's with a PPV outlet. The model we use is we let those fighters own the pot of money, and we work for them.
You know? And he's just like a local promoter in Vegas, you know?
Them are kid games. I'm gonna stay in my lane and mind my business and take care of my fighters. But this back and forth, I'm not gonna do that.
He then continued, that's not probably the model that they use, and Tank will be looking at these stadiums that he's filling and looking at the PPV numbers going, who gets what here? And with our biggest stars, whether that's Canelo, whether that's AJ, you own everything, and we work for you, and that's the model that we'd apply to a star like Gervonta Davis. On his ongoing beef with Leonard Ellerbe, he replied, maybe it's getting out of hand. I think we just have very different senses of humor. I think Britain and the sarcasm and that kind of thing. I mean, he phoned me once screaming and shouting, and he's made several threats to me. But one, these threats have like no relevance and couldn't bother me in the slightest. But two, he doesn't really get the back and forth. So ultimately, I think we're good for each other.
I'm not gonna do that. That man just needs to mind his business, keep my name out of his fucking mouth, and do his job. And we good.
There's probably a time where I was actually going to reach out to Leonard and go, what's the matter? What? I don't understand. But there's no point now, is there? We'll just sign Gervonta Davis. That'd be quite funny.
Like he doesn't stop talking about me in America. And obviously my profile is smaller in America than it is in the UK. No one really knows who he is in the UK, but he doesn't really get that. So to him, he takes it personally, which is a bit sad. And I understand that, but I'm just gonna speak my mind. I'm not gonna start cowering and saying, oh, I'm sorry, Leonard, I don't want to upset you, because fuck him at the end of the day. He added, if some guy is gonna say that he's gonna stomp me out or he's gonna smack me when he sees me or something, one, he's a 60-year-old man, but two, he talks about be professional. I'm not gonna start cowering and saying, oh, I'm sorry, Leonard, I don't want to upset you, because fuck him at the end of the day. I'll talk the way I want to talk, and I say what I want to say.
I mean, Leonard is saying like it's on site. If you see Eddie Hearn.
Listen, if he says something disrespectful to me, I will smack the shit out of him. Period.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't mind it a little bit. Jokes aside, I quite like his energy.
And Leonard Ellerbe has never really, when you look at my resume and what we've done internationally in terms of major events, we're on another level. I respect what Leonard does in business, and he's been around and been involved in some big shows, but when he talks about, I'm the biggest clown in boxing, When you look at what we do and you look at our resume, I think he looks silly. He knows how good we are, but we're coming into his territory and trying to take over, and I'm being met with fierce resistance from everybody, which is flattering. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.